When I talk about the problem of autism, you know that it's now about 8 decades that we have framed this particular name, since 1943 with Leo Kanner. And you must understand that before 1935, there was never any mention, even in the best pediatric books in the world, any mention of autism. So is it really a new epidemic that we are going? This is an interesting question we can pose ourselves, especially if we look for particularly triggers, what triggered this particular epidemic of illness. I will talk about the intrauterine questions. Again, something that certainly is not known at all in allopathy, and to my chagrin and sadness, and also not much in homeopathy. In other words, when we have all these challenged children, for which I call them challenged children, I don't really care how they call them, ASD or ADD, ADHD, OCD, and all the letters of the alphabet. I don't really care about that. I want to hear about, I call it a challenged child, and my pity and my compassion goes out to the child. This is what the Chinese would have called, a noble misfortune versus the ignoble. Noble because you couldn't do anything about it. The challenged child is a noble misfortune. They can't really help it. It's our genes. Ignoble misfortunes, of course, we do many things to ourselves that we are the cause of, and that it's really our fault. Let's put it that way. But those challenged children are all noble misfortunes for me. And my sympathy and my hard work will go out to them with my whole heart, I must say, without any doubt. So again, the intrauterine questions, you will see that much depends on that. Much depends on that mother, of course, will give you a tremendous amount of information that is necessary for you to find the simillimum. And I'm glad that we got this wonderful patient this morning, but I'm also sure many times, even when we don't have a challenged child, and tomorrow I know we have an epileptic case, I'll be curious to see if even there, with the adult, that I won't see an intrauterine story that I must also link to the simillimum that the patient needs at that point. So that's going to be important. I have no idea if it is or not, but I will teach you how it is really necessary for you to investigate like a good detective. I call it, and you shouldn't call it that way towards the patient, where did the crime take place intrautero, when and where and how. Like a good detective, you must always go to the place of the crime. No, I will never say this to the patient, of course. You committed a crime. Mothers are sensitive enough, and we need to be sensitive about that too. So that's why these intrauterine questions have found to be extremely useful in the practice. I am sure that you have the same problem talking about ASD, or autism spectrum disorder. It is now 1 in 156 children in the United States are born with autism. This is more than just a regular coincidence. It's an epidemic, of course, and I can only see what happens in the United States, and I'm sure it is the same thing here, that it is a burden to some extent for the rest of the life of the parents. It's very hard for them. It's very heartbreaking for the child, her or himself. So here I think we can do a tremendous amount of work, because allopathy so far really has not much to offer. It's wonderful for us to save somebody like that. Imagine, only you can do it. That is the beauty. There's no psychiatrist, nobody else. Not even in TCM can we do this. But you have a great responsibility, no doubt about it. If we have this particularly challenged children, as you will see, that it starts intrautero. What the mom feels, she carries over to the unborn fetus. Because what Jung said about that, if you repress or suppress your emotions, then he says, nature will come and visit you with a physical illness. It's really true. So, he's timid, he said, so when he doesn't feel safe, a safe place would be what?
Home. Home
Only
is
home?
safe. School.
It's a cry for help so much. Do you still love me? How many times did they go to mom 3-4 times a day? Do you still love me, mom? Yeah, okay. You know, but this is a great cry for help too. You know, self-mutilating, tearing the hairs out. You know, it's just terrible for those children, I may say, at that point. Terrible, because what else can they do? To get the attention, to get help. The vital force throws such symptoms up. What else can the vital force do to become self-destructive and syphilitic? It's horrible. It's horrible. And guess what we do in allopathy? And thank God I never did this. We put them on Prozac, Zoloft, whatever it is, all these medications that really, I call it, robbing that person of the little emotional strength that that person still had. That's what we really do. The eating nails, biting the nails and eating them, what does that reflect? I always think, what does it reflect? I'm not thinking right with rubric, now comes the rubric, but what asks me, what does it mean? And in the whole case, no? What does it reflect? Biting nails. Inner tension. Of course. Inner tension, inner restlessness. You know, if I'm calm and collect, I'm not going to bite my nails and eat them. You know, no, this is tic nerveux, same thing. When you see people with tic nerveux, you know, you must think right away, I wonder what's going on inside. Never mind what's going outside. The stronger it is outside, hello, it calls for you to go inside and say, wow, what's going on inside? It's just a reflection from the inside. It's what I call the conscious versus the unconscious. You see the conscious, you must fish in the unconscious, because there is the simillimum, not in what the patient tells you. Some, but those are his compensations, okay? He does a lot of compensations. Do this, blocking out, just cool, make sure he doesn't have anything new. What does it happen when he has something new? He refuses to do it. I knew that right away. And there is some remedy you have to think of.
Of course, was the emotional pain. What about the emotional pain? I don't need to do another multi-million-dollar study to know that emotional pain is felt, and this is what we're going to talk about, of course. This is something still, unfortunately enough, that allopathy has not figured out yet, unfortunately for us, and many homeopaths neither, that the psychological pain, the emotional trauma on the mother during pregnancy can be carried over to the unborn fetus, and therefore will produce the very unfortunate amount of what I would call challenged children, no matter what name they have, be it autism or attention deficit disorder, whatever it's called. We just have to see in practice, you just have to look in practice and see that we have that problem all the time, no? We have many challenged children. I do hope that you have the occasion to treat many, as I feel you have the best opportunity to cure them, without any doubt.